Hey everybody, on this episode of the Comic Book Exchange, it's getting close to Valentine's Day, so we're going to do a little bit of love with Skybound's new game, Red Flags, and we're also discussing the new Fox television series we're going to discuss. It's at Comic Book Origins. That's right, we're talking about Legion. Next.
This is Book Circle Online, featuring in-depth discussion, insight, news, and commentary on all the world's leading book titles and their authors. And now, Book Circle Online.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Comic Book Exchange here on Book Circle Online. Of course, this is the show where we talk to the creators. We also discuss all the comic books that come out every single week, whether it be digitally or in your local comic shop, and just discuss how they change your life. I started and then I crashed on that intro.
It's all right. Happened. It's all right.
I think we're all there.
There you go. Hey folks, I'm one of your hosts, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie.
I'm another one of your hosts. I'm Lex Michael, and I am all over social media at the Lex Michael.
And I'm the third host, Lucretia Lyons. You can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one.
That's right. And Joelle, who's usually our fourth to round out our panel, she is away this evening, but she'll be back next week to talk more comic book shenanigans with us. In the meantime, though, folks, you can like us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Lex Michael, how does thou cup runneth with
this is good. We've got a little bit in here. It's caffeinated 5 stars. None of that decaf 5-star nonsense.
I understand. So please, everybody, just give Lex Michael those 5 stars. He needs those. He's exhausted today. He was up at 5:30 this morning.
Many long days back to back. Not enough sleep. Need them 5 stars. Give me that boost.
Need him.
It's my livelihood at stake here.
Yeah, the Legends of Tomorrow fans gave you several.
Yes,
because they were so concerned about your well-being.
Oh, well, right. Yeah. I'm dead. They should be very sad.
No, that's not. No. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel, and Lucretia is also a resident Oracle. She's got the computer up, the chat's up and running. So if you want to chime in about anything you've been reading lately or anything that we're discussing, please feel free to chime in. Share your thoughts. So, as mentioned at the top of the show, Valentine's Day, just one short week away, and I know we've all got our Valentines lined up. Of course, right?
Yes, all of them.
Meticulously
like
planned out.
Yes,
every detail of this great night. December 14th, February 14th. Clearly, I'm lined up for my Valentine's Day.
It's Legends. It screwed us up. They said it was Christmas.
That's right. But to help everybody along, if you want to worry about your dating life, maybe you're single. Maybe it's like you're tired of the dating game. You want to try your chances out there in the great big world of possibility. Skybound has a new game called Red Flags.
Oh yeah.
It's the game of terrible dates. Maybe to make you feel better about what you do have in your life. That's one thing. Like, oh, you know what? Actually, the person I'm with right now isn't so bad. It could be much worse.
Yes. It can always be. There's no greater romantic sentiment than it could always be worse.
That's true. That's spoken from the heart. There you go. I think I may be in one of these terrible cards that you see here in this game.
But at least you're not Frank Moran.
That's right.
That's the red flag, being Frank Moran.
So basically what you do is you play this game with your friends here, and you get basically you give everybody 2 perks and then 1 red flag. And that's supposed to be like, something that decide, is that a deal breaker for you? Would you still date this person? With two pluses, is that minus big enough to like, no thanks, not for me?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So for example, you can get things like, believes you're the most attractive person they've ever seen. Oh, that's great.
All right.
Why not? Fiercely loyal. Who doesn't want loyalty in a person? Yes.
Yeah. Fierce loyalty.
Yes.
I mean, you can't buy fierce loyalty.
Those are just 2 great perks. But then all of a sudden you get to the 1 red flag. Their kisses taste like poop, and they love kissing.
Oh.
That's right, James. Thank you. Yeah. So enough for you, Lex or Lucretia? What do you think?
I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to pass.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like I want to give him half credit because who doesn't love kissing? But ew.
But look at they think you're the bee's knees, the hottest thing they've ever seen, and they will be by your side, defend you no matter what.
So I will enlist their services, but we will not make out.
Yeah.
How
it's like being with a prostitute. Just don't kiss them on the mouth, and you're good.
We'll just try 2 more at random here. Look and see. Knows everything about we'll just say pop culture, nerd stuff. There you go. That's great. Yeah,
I like that.
Fantastic.
Saves me some time having to catch them up.
Yeah. Owns an adorable coffee shop.
Who doesn't love adorable?
Yes,
It's like right out of a romantic comedy.
There you go. And a potential red flag here. Worst smelling person in the world.
in the world?
In the world. In the world. That's, yeah, they proudly can claim that title.
According to who?
To Guinness.
To Guinness. Okay. Well, that's legitimate. So, worst smelling. But they own a coffee shop.
And they know everything, the ins and outs of everything nerdy pop culture. Right in your wheelhouse.
I know. I'm like, it's funny because my half-brother actually smells terrible and his wife can't smell anything. So maybe if you couldn't smell anything...
So just burn your nostrils out.
Yeah.
And sky's the limit.
Do it for love.
You just have to smoke cigarettes, apparently. That's what most people I know. It's gross, too. So, like, you both smell. Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. All right. It seems like so far, we'll try one more here. Let's see. Has front row seats at every sporting event. Oh, Lucretia, this is right in your wheelhouse there, right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Lex, so far, this is not a perk for Lex Michael.
You're like sports set.
We're doubling up here on this. Owns your favorite sports team.
Oh.
Already, these are two.
Well, if you own a sports team, you're probably wealthy.
Yes.
So there's an A to C here that I can get behind.
Yeah.
All right. And their red flag uses the word chillax in every sentence.
I'm pretty sure I would still date this person because I'm actually picturing Chad from Scream Queens, and I love that guy.
If you're a wealthy sports franchise owner and you have the talent to be able to slip chillax into literally every sentence, I got, like, hats off, man.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta try. Like, we'll date for a month. We'll see how it goes.
All right, okay. Who's been playing along and helping us out so much, making this segment sing? James in the booth. I'm going to do one quick one for James. All right, James?
I'm listening.
All right, here we go. Here are your two perks here. One, your parents love this person. This person also loves staying in. All right. Your red flag, still in fourth grade.
Oh.
I can't answer this question.
On the grounds that it may incriminate you?
Yeah.
I understand. All right. We do not want to get James in trouble with the law.
Yeah,
But as far
sometimes.
as the chillaxing one goes, it'd be like dating a Pokemon.
Or Groot.
Oh, yes. All right, so that, everybody, just a small sample of the kind of fun that you can have with Skybound's new game, Red Flags, the game of terrible dates. So thank you, Skybound, for sending this over to us. That was really cool. Just one more potential red flag I just want to see.
Yeah.
Only speaks in horrible puns.
See, that's my dream guy. I'm like,
I feel like a lot.
it's like dad jokes guy.
Do you know what it is? It's not even the puns. It's the only speaks in puns.
Yeah.
I don't like that's a step removed from only talks and riddles. I don't know how to engage with that on a constant basis.
You've never had the hots for Edward Nygma. You're no penguin.
Not even once.
No.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
All right. Well, you're missing out.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I feel like if it was ever going to happen, it would be Batman Forever when he's wearing the unitard,
Yeah.
and even then, no awakening of any kind.
Yeah, the orange hair.
No, surprisingly, you'd think, right?
Yeah.
Knowing me,
Yeah, Jim
but
Carrey.
No,
weirdly,
nothing there for you.
Weirdly.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned there at the other top of the show. The other thing we'll be talking about is on FX starting this evening as we record Wednesday, February the 8th. There's a new series debuting on there from called Legion, based on one of the X-Men characters. So we thought it definitely has a long history in the comic books, created by Chris Claremont for X-Men. Actually debuted in New Mutants number 25 as a little info page. But we thought we'd talk a little bit about X-Men and Legion in particular there, about what this character is and see what, because I've been hearing great things about the show, and this character's got a long, rich history, so it's fun stuff to delve into.
So the show for me, and I'll open by saying, obviously I'm a huge comic book person. I'm here. Hello. But
What are these comics?
I unlike a lot of like good friends of mine that I grew up with, I was never really an X-Men guy. Like I got it. I totally understood what the appeal was, and I appreciated mutants as allegory, and I appreciated some of the concepts that they played with. But outside of a couple specific big storylines, I feel like that's maybe my biggest blind spot in the Marvel universe at this point. So I'm not looking at this show Legion as, I watch all the movies. I've seen all the movies multiple times, even the one with Deadpool in it that was not good, but then the one with Deadpool in it was great. so I'm not coming to it as like a diehard X-Men source material fan, but what's really exciting about the show is that it's being run by Noah Hawley, who also is the showrunner for FX's Fargo, which is, if you haven't seen Fargo, better than most TV, yes, but also better than most movies I've seen in the last few years. So the fact that Noah Hawley is creating a show where you get to play with a mythology that I discovered the further I dug, it's just crazy, is very, very exciting to me.
And especially, I mean, if you just look at that, it's just his pedigree to take on something that the Coen brothers created, and then say, hey, you know what, I can jump into this world and do a lot of things with it. Initially, you're like, okay, sure, right, but he's really proved it.
Especially, it's right. It's like, why? You can't make a better Fargo than the Coen brothers did. What is the purpose of this exercise? Stop this madness. And then you watch the show and you go, oh, I was so stupid and wrong. This is amazing.
Yeah, you put Colin Hanks, Bob Odenkirk. I mean, like, he did such a good job of picking people to where we're like, no, I can get behind it. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, so what is it about like the X-Men franchise that you know of them, but it's never really kind of grabbed you as a reader?
I'm not sure. It might be because within the mythology of the Marvel Universe, it seems like the X-Men exist, and it's only the divide is only increased because everybody's mad about where the movie rights are, and it's like, X-Men, get over here. Inhumans, it's all about the Inhumans now. Oof. The divide has only gotten greater, but the X-Men have always felt to me like they exist in their own pocket. The big ones, like Wolverine will show up places occasionally, and they'll, Kitty Pryde hangs out with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But if they're not crossing over into other stories, it seems like they're largely confined to one area. And I feel like I just never found my consistent jumping on point where I felt like, okay, now I'm in. I was like, all right, I get it, but I always felt lost at the same time because there were so many strands of mythology happening that I didn't know where to go.
I can understand. Grisha, are you an X-Men fan?
Yeah, actually, X-Men was my jam in the 90s because it started out with that 90s cartoon show, and then, too, what X-Men did and brought people like me, because I like to create my own stories. Like, I was familiar with the comics, but X-Men literally created a toy of every freaking character. As I say, like Sunspot had an action figure. So I was very familiar with all these characters because they had such a wide range of toys, and they were really good at marketing in the 90s because there was a game at Ken's Pizza. It was a really cool scrolling game, and I would just, like, if I could buy one stupid thing when I make some money, that would be it, that game. Because, so, like, I was very familiar. Yes, see, even James knows.
I once just spent, like, countless amounts of quarters one night, and where I was like, I'm not leaving until I beat this fucking
And it was a pretty easy game to beat after a while.
Is it the one that's like the side-scrolling fighting thing?
Yes, and you could be like Colossus, Storm, Wolverine.
Yes.
Cyclops, Jubilee.
It was Dazzler, but yeah.
Thank you.
And then wasn't there like an X-Men versus Capcom game at one point?
Oh yeah, that was a pretty cool game.
Anyway.
No.
So, I mean, I guess I've always enjoyed it. I think the one that, and I just read this recently, is just the Dark Phoenix saga, which never has really been adapted well to any, like, television. The cartoon, it was fine. Yeah. But, I mean, the original, Chris Claremont, John Byrne, I feel like we really saw them kind of firing on all cylinders creatively at that time. Yeah,
and that's what I've always wanted, was to see the Dark Phoenix saga told well, because that is one of the best X-Men stories. Yeah. The evolution of Jean Grey, and because that's a character that you followed through all these different things. At one point, she was even known as Miss Marvel. I mean, and that's the thing, is... she's changed so much over the years, and the Dark Phoenix was cool to see the character, especially if you're like a big Wolverine fan like I was, the woman he loved, turn into the villain, and,
If you can track down, I heard this years and years and years ago, but I believe it's Mike Dougherty, I believe. If you listen to him talk about what his original concept was for the third X-Men movie, and I believe the Dark Phoenix saga, when Bryan Singer was still going to make it, it will make you so mad.
Yeah.
Really?
It will make you so mad that movie did not get made.
Was it adhering more closely to the original story?
It's been years and years and years since I've listened to this interview that I heard him describe it in, so I have trouble recollecting specific details, but I remember listening to it and going, but like, it was right there. It was just do that. Even when you lose Bryan Singer, just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Famke could have pulled it off, I think. And as much as I like her as Sansa Stark, I'm just not seeing this Jean Grey that we have in the current X-Men universe going, in that direction.
Where they fight a blueberry.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that was a rough movie. That was.
fun.
Yeah.
It was. You see the Quicksilver that Ultron didn't shoot running around and stuff. It's great.
No, I mean,
Evan
like,
Peters was good as Quicksilver.
He's
he
great.
was. No, that was really cool. But just like, do we want to see? Just Magneto just standing up for the most of the time, just in a big glowing sphere of energy. Like for way too much of that movie.
I will say though, like Michael Fassbender seems, I don't know if it's like a condition, maybe it's congenital, but he is incapable of delivering a bad performance.
No, he was-
so
yeah.
he's endlessly compelling, even when I don't really understand why anyone's doing anything.
Yeah, but you can also introduce Psylocke, and you do nothing with her. And
But
you
she
give her
jumps around and stuff.
And it was Olivia Munn.
She says like what 2 lines in the whole movie, and then slinks off at the end like with some creepo. I'm like, what
It was
is
a shot in the
this?
trailer where she like jumps and swings the
That was
thing.
enough for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
God. Because Psylocke is such a cool character in the comics and everything, so it was pretty crappy to do that. Just like Lady Deathstrike got in that first terrible Wolverine movie. It was just like, she's one of his main freaking villains, and she has 2 lines?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like the X-Men, if everybody thinks about them, you're more often than not going to think of Chris Claremont because he really, even though he didn't, he came in after the Giant Size X-Men to kind of take the franchise and just had it under his control for 10 plus years doing that. I mean, he collaborated with David Cockrum, John Byrne, then Paul Smith, John Romita Jr., Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee. Spun off. They got so popular that they finally spun off into a second title, where they got to do Uncanny X-Men and then just the X-Men book itself. So first time
Yes.
that they kind of spun off, and then the Image guys just kind of before they went to Image, just had enough juice that they were able to kind of just say, hey, we want to control these books now.
Yeah, so I eventually went back as I was delving into comics. I had like a reawakening a handful of years ago where I dropped comics for a little bit, and then I got back into them with a vengeance. And I went back and I went back and I read some of these X-Men books, some of these stories like Days of Future Past, and I read Old Man Logan, a handful of years ago. But I ended up now I'm remembering. I'm like, right, I have read a bunch of X-Men actually. I've read Whedon stuff. Which I read right around this. It was Astonishing, I think it was. Astonishing X-Men. I read Joss Whedon's run on that. And then I read, my roommate for a number of years had, I think, almost every volume of Ultimate X-Men.
Okay.
Which is just bonkers.
Yeah, definitely. That is certainly a much different kind of approach, which is nice. I mean, if you're going to do an Ultimate line, you may as well you don't want to rehash everything again.
Yeah, and it's for somebody like me who did feel like, well, I don't know what my in is necessarily into like the full X-Men continuity. It's a real easy place to jump on. Everything's really simplified and laid out for you. And I was like, I understand what's going on. It's crazy, but I get it.
Yeah. It's I felt like it kind of once Chris Claremont left though, it kind of they had other creators come in and kind of write, but it kind of meandered around the same thing, kind of almost like X-Men or Fantastic Four after Jack Kirby and Stan Lee left, where everybody's just kind of doing rehashes of the classics.
Right.
And then all of a sudden Grant Morrison comes in and he turns everything on its head.
That's his thing.
Yeah. Instead of making them like an oppressed minority, all of a sudden they realize no, the way the evolution is going, eventually mutants will outnumber the humans, and we're heading in that direction. And that was a really cool thing. And he was on there for a couple of years, and then he had a falling out with Marvel. And then once he left, Marvel decided, we're just going to rewrite, just kind of, erase everything that he ever did to this franchise and just pretend like it didn't even happen. Which I thought was disappointing because I thought he had some really fun ideas to take it in a different direction. Because, I know mutants and the allegory, the social allegory to it, but oh man, sometimes it just gets a little too much.
Sure. Well, and I feel like it's a metaphor that they hit right on the head pretty frequently. And it's a metaphor I appreciate, but again, it's like, you feel like you maybe get a similar version of a story enough times, it starts to get a little bit tired. And I actually I've not read Morrison's run on X-Men, but based on what I know of Morrison's other work, I could see how, no matter how incredible what he wrote was, there's only one Grant Morrison, and I could totally see it being a little bit challenging for no matter how talented the writer, any other writer to then come in and go, I gotta do Grant Morrison now. Oh God.
Well, because he took him out of the costumes, kind of gave him like the cool like yellow and black jackets and stuff that they were doing. He broke up Scott and Jean Grey, which they were kind of the whole Phoenix Jean Grey is very convoluted in comics past, but then hooked up Scott with Emma Frost.
Yeah.
Emma Frost, the White Queen.
I always thought that Scott needed a villain chick, because he was always just Mr. Boring. So I liked that.
So you liked it better with Emma Frost?
Emma Frost, because sorry, Jean and Wolverine.
Really?
You know,
I feel like, and it seems like both of you are certainly more steeped in X-Men lore than I am, but it seems to me from where I'm sitting that nobody likes Cyclops at all.
Man, I felt like they recently just wrote him into a corner after they did the whole thing, X-Men versus the Avengers. He dons his red costume with the X across the face and stuff, and they just kind of made him just like, just a leader for, just not standing up to mutant oppression anymore.
Yeah, I remember getting information about some of these storylines second or third hand and being like, what? He's bad now? Why? Is it because everyone kept making fun of him?
Because he killed Professor Xavier.
Right, yes, I heard about this.
He was controlled by the Phoenix. The Phoenix had come back to Earth and possessed the Phoenix Five. Instead of coming back to one person, Iron Man split it up so that they ended up getting Cyclops, Colossus, Namor, Emma Stone, Emma Frost, the White Queen,
Yes.
and God, it was the last one. One more. I'm blanking on it right now. But anyway, so they each had a portion of that, and eventually Scott decided I'm gonna, as long as I keep absorbing everybody else's Phoenix abilities, that I just keep getting stronger and stronger. So eventually whittled down to him and Emma Frost, and then he took hers. And then he ended up killing Professor Xavier.
well, my issue with Scott is that he was just like the perfect 80s movie villain douche guy, is what he always came off as. That preppy guy that you didn't want to end up with the girl in the end in the comics. And you're just like, why is she with him?
Yeah.
That guy. Like, and that was Scott, because you're like, he's so dull. And
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
like you see, like they were, like when you see a friend that was with somebody that's way hotter than them, and like they must have like went on some like life-threatening adventure that he or she saved that other person's life, and that's why they're together. They had this incredible thing that I can never understand, but it's drawn those two people so closely together.
Huh.
But I don't know if I see Scott like that. I mean, I just feel like because they called him Slim growing up because he was kind of like a pencil neck geek, but also had these great optic blasts.
yeah, he's very similar to Steve Rogers, and that's what I like with the Marvel movies and how Chris Evans portrayed Steve Rogers, is he made him a much more likable character. And that's why I think James Marsden could have done that with, Scott Summers, but that's the thing, is why don't we just make him cooler in the comics?
I'm firmly convinced that James Marsden can do just about anything,
Sex robot.
But even in the movies, and I like the X-Men movies, most of them, but like even in the movies, Cyclops is a little bit, just as a character on the page, you know what I mean? He's a little bit one note, and then he dies off screen.
Yeah, no, in the movies it's very disappointing. The treatment of him, because I think he has much more potential than you ever saw in any of the X-Men movies. And to see the way that he was handled in the third one, you're like, that's it? That's what you're going to do to him?
It's pretty crappy.
I feel bad for him because he never really had a chance to shine in any of it. Because it seemed like Wolverine was certainly the star.
It was basically that
Yeah.
all of the X-Men movies are basically the Wolverine show to a varying
Yeah.
extent. And like Jackman is great. I mean, that's not, I know enough about the source material to know that's not really the Wolverine from the comics at all, but that's phenomenal. Like, that's Wolverine to so many people.
Although it is interesting to go look back at the first one and just see how smaller he is.
Yes.
And you're just like, wow, that's what we thought was awesome back then. And just to see how he is in future X-Men and Logan films, just so jacked.
But like, if you look at some depictions of Wolverine in the comics, he looks closer to like a young Danny DeVito with some more muscles than he does to a Hugh Jackman.
He's so hairy. He's just so hairy. And originally, I mean, he was never going to be the forefront, but then it was like during that Dark Phoenix saga where there's an issue where Wolverine has to take on the Hellfire Club alone to rescue the X-Men. And that really kind of catapulted Wolverine into, I don't want to say like the A-League, but just kind of put him a little notch above a lot of the other X-Men. Because like, oh my God, he's so awesome. He's got claws, a healing factor. He took on everybody by himself. He's so scrappy. And everybody started to be like, man, Wolverine's the guy. Wolverine's the guy. And that just kept on building and building his character until we have him. He's so much more of a standout to everybody else, because I don't think there's any other X-Men character that really can hold their own series other than Wolverine.
Well, no, and how many other X-Men characters also now have, for lack of a better term, like a legacy version of that character? Like, I'm super sleep deprived, so I forgot another X-Universe book that I've been reading and really, really enjoy is All New Wolverine, starring X-23, Laura Kinney. That I think is a great book, but also too, do any other X-Men have legacy versions of themselves. Does anyone else have like a Miles Morales?
The only thing you could kind of say is when they did the new X-Men series and Brian Michael Bendis wrote it, and he took the idea is that Hank McCoy Beast goes back in time and wants to bring back the 60s version, the original classic X-Men, back to present day to see what has happened, to maybe they get the idea like, or maybe we should go back and change some things. So he brings back the original 5 X-Men, and then they get stuck in the present. They're unable to go back. So they are still on the playing field. So it's almost like they're a kind of legacy.
Yeah, but, you know, being legacy, within the X-Men universe, there's a lot of, you know, parentage and stuff like that. I mean, and that's where it comes to Legion. And most people are unaware that Legion is Professor X's son.
Yes.
And even he didn't know that as well. That was something that was dropped on him as well. You know, Charles Xavier, man, he got his freak on there back in the early days.
Yeah.
Now, back when he first introduced the New Mutants, I mean, Professor X, if you think about it, all right, I'll ask you guys. When you think of Professor X, what do you think of? Do you think of him in a wheelchair, or do you think of him walking around?
I only think of Professor X in the wheelchair.
Really?
You know, I remember, you know, some of the parts out of it. I mean, of course, like the ones that the McAvoy movies are based on are a little different. But yeah, I always know him as the bald guy in the wheelchair. You know?
I think of Patrick Stewart in the chair immediately.
I mean, I guess, you know, 'cause certainly that's the first thing you think of, but I always enjoyed Professor X much more when he was just mobile. I felt like that was great, because now he doesn't have to worry about, like, you know, well, he had the cool, like, hover wheelchair for a while that would kind of float him around and stuff, but I always liked it when they recloned his body, and all of a sudden he had now use of his legs again. I thought that was kind of cool. It's like, do I need... Is it dependent on him to be in a wheelchair to be a cool character? I don't think so.
No.
No.
Not necessarily.
No, but I do like the idea that this character whose body is disabled has the most powerful mind, arguably, in the world. That's a cool juxtaposition. But I don't think that being in the chair makes the character. It's certainly part of the iconography of the character, that and being bald, but I don't think that defines the character.
And I feel one thing that's kind of lost now is because they've written, at least for a while, Professor X out of the X-Men comics. I mean, it's been several years, and who knows? I mean, they actually have the Red Skull has got his brain now.
What?
Yes.
Sure, why not?
Yes.
Isn't it the Jean Grey School for Institute for Higher Learning, something
Correct.
like that? Yes.
Yes.
I know some things sometimes.
That was last thing, because she, of course, had died, then was brought back, and then Grant Morrison, before he left, killed her off one final time.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, why not? Had Magneto kill her, which nobody seems to be really mad at Magneto that often. That was like, hey, wait, you killed Jean Grey. That's something that's not really talked about much.
I feel like past a certain
cool.
well, I feel like you have to consider two things. Like, again, based on what I know as a relative outsider to the X-Men mythology, save for the movies, you got to accept two universal truths. One, Magneto gonna Magneto. Two, inevitably Jean Grey is gonna die. She's probably gonna come back, but inevitably she's gonna die again. That's that's her other thing. It's turn evil, die.
Yeah.
I was, as much as you've got Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, both fantastic actors, both people I enjoy. I always thought, of course, Patrick Stewart. Everybody, he was such a great natural fit for Professor Xavier. I don't know if I think if I had to choose between like Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender, I enjoy Michael Fassbender when I think of Magneto than Ian McKellen. Even though he's great, there's just something about Michael Fassbender that has more of just like the
personality, I will say, as much, and it had to be hell following someone like Ian McKellen, but I would agree that I thought Fassbender was better, too, in a way, and more associated with the Magneto that I grew up with.
Yeah. I just felt like this Ian McKellen is like, his version just seemed like somebody that was on the wane. You're watching him kind of on the way out, just holding on to whatever he can on the way out. Michael Fassbender just like, just so physical and so primal.
I will say what's very cool, and ultimately I agree, as much as I absolutely love McKellen and I love the dynamic between him and Patrick Stewart in the movies that they're in together, Fassbender is more, when I think of Magneto, I think of a guy that's closer in age, if nothing else, to Fassbender. But what's really cool, if you guys have seen the Rogue cut of Days of Future Past, there is a sequence where they're going to get Rogue, and Magneto is basically spearheading this initiative to get into the facility where she's being kept. And they intercut it with the sequence of Fassbender's Magneto breaking in to steal his helmet. And so watching these two different Magnetos in two different timelines enter into these two different secure facilities, wonderful.
Oh, that's cool. Very similar gestures and stuff, or no?
I gotta go back and watch it again. It's been a long time.
Fine, Lex. You bring up this great thing, and
the
then
general impression of it that I got, that was like, that is neat.
Yes.
I mean, certainly if you're going to have any property that's been around since 1963, you're going to have a lot of different iterations of it. I mean, there's been times where Magneto and Professor X have been very much diametrically opposed to each other. There's been times they've worked together. There's been times where Professor X has been off the canvas and Magneto's run the school, where he was a headmaster for the New Mutants for a while. Is there any particular kind of version that, especially since, Lucretia, you have a much more of a closer association with the property, is there one that you like more than the other?
Not necessarily, because to my relation with the comics is going to be more of your Uncanny X-Men from the 90s and then the reboot. So I mean, the Fassbender one in Days of Future Past, like in that thing, I don't see that big of a difference in the character of Magneto as opposed to Professor X, who's had some differences. Yeah.
And I feel like, I guess the 90s is probably the last time we had some really good contributions. I mean, you had Jubilee, Gambit.
Yeah, I love Gambit.
Yeah, and
Josh Holloway is Gambit, people.
But it feels like now, like, in the current day, there's not that many of like the 90s X-Men that are actively involved. They're still on the outskirts, but you never really see them as an active part of the team.
There was maybe it's still ongoing. Wasn't there not a comic book series based on the 90s cartoon, though, happening?
Yeah.
There was X-Men 92.
Yes.
I actually had the first issue of that, and I think I still do somewhere.
It ended up going up to 10 issues, I guess. And I'd like to read it because I do know the person that wrote it, and it'd be kind of cool just to read it. It seems like, and he's certainly a huge fan.
Sure.
He and his writing partner of the original source material, so it'd be cool to see what they
that's
take
when
it.
when I think about the X-Men, I think the movies, yeah, but then I think the 90s cartoon. And I actually, again, wasn't an X-Men kid so much. So while most people were watching the X-Men cartoon, I was probably watching the Spider-Man series, which I think was made by the same people.
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man, radioactive Spider-Man.
That one.
Yes.
That's the best theme song.
Spider-Man. I was watching that and probably Batman the Animated Series around the same time.
Okay.
Which, that was amazing.
But of course, the appearance, the depiction of the characters in the 90s cartoon series was instantly iconic. I think for a lot of people, it's either, like me, it's either the movies or that version. I don't understand why the theme music for the cartoon has yet to be incorporated into one of the feature films, because it would make a theater of X-Men fans rise to their feet in applause.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, all you need to see that, or you just need to see just an X kind of spinning back into the background and then detonating.
But I was like, you could have, if not fixed entirely, helped a great deal X-Men The Last Stand if when they're all fighting on Alcatraz, you just kick in the I guarantee you at least 17% less angry your audience would be.
Well, because I think about like when the Transformer movies first came out, and you see Optimus Prime transform, and you hear the sound effects from the cartoon, and how many people just erupted like crazy people. Oh my God, it's just like in the cartoon.
So, Lex, you're saying you never got any of those awesome X-Men Valentines that I included with the show today in the 90s?
I've seen those, and maybe I did. I don't remember. That was a long time ago, Lucretia.
Because the Wolverine ones were always the best. It's like, I got you, bub.
I'm always ready to be your friend.
Like, they were the best.
All right, so Lex, I'm not sure if you have an answer for this, but Lucretia, definitive artist for the X-Men. When you think of somebody that you really, is it Jim Lee? Is it more of that era?
Yeah, that era, because that's really what I always associate. The yellow suit.
Oh man, back when they did that, the adventure out into space, and they're all wearing like the old yellow and blue costumes.
Yeah.
Oh. That was kind of cool.
And see, I at least love in the first X-Men movie, they at least make a joke about the spandex and the yellow. It's like, I like when they throw it back, and I hear that we're going to get more of that with the new Logan movie.
They keep teasing the yellow costume in some capacity, and I'm wondering, is it just going to show up on the weird in-universe comic books about the X-Men in the movie, or are we actually going to see some iteration finally, if this is to be Jackman's final at-bat as Wolverine, do we get the yellow suit? Even if it's a weird flashback, a fever dream, something.
That would be cool.
I think we'll definitely get it in Deadpool.
All right. So when it comes to Wolverine, though,
Wolverine montage of him just trying on different outfits.
I want that so bad.
And just slicing him off.
Yeah.
And
Or
throwing
like
him.
Deadpool, like, not so much.
Yeah.
You look fat. Write it up.
Yellow and black costume for Wolverine, or the brown and tan?
Yellow and black.
Yes.
Yes.
I gotta go brown and tan.
Really, James? Seriously?
Solely because, like, she was talking about the action figures earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I remember buying that from the mall and having it and being being so excited, and it had the spring-loaded claws.
Yeah. I had that one too.
That was my favorite. His mask came off. Oh, it was so cool.
Oh, look at that! I always found that so interesting about Logan is that his hair was like it just molded right into the mask. Like he took it off and his hair looks still the same with or without mask. I was like, man, that's like I would love to follow Logan in the morning, getting up, styling that hair because there's no way that the hair stays by itself without any help.
Oh, with the to the point.
Yes. I mean, especially some artists have really taken liberties about how long they will make his hair.
It's part of his mutation. He's got that healing factor hair that is made of adamantium.
Speaking of mutations, like Grant Morrison, one of the things that he introduced was secondary mutations to a lot of the mutants. That's like where Emma Frost could also turn into Diamond, as opposed to also being telepathic as well. Do you like the idea of adding more mutations to a mutant, as opposed to like, no, you just get one, don't be greedy?
Well, that's actually, okay, that's a wonderful segue, because we haven't talked that much yet about Legion, the character. Legion can basically do all of it.
Yeah, because he has split personalities, and that's what's so cool, and that's why the show is going to be so good.
Well, so what I discovered delving into the mythology of Legion, Frank, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. It's crazy. It's like crazy in a way that makes me so very excited for the TV show. As you mentioned, David Haller, who's Legion, is the son of Charles Xavier. And when he's a kid, you correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, but when he's a kid, he's involved, like he's one of the victims of a terrorist attack, and the trauma of that causes him to manifest his mutant powers, and he basically incinerates a bunch of people's minds, and then absorbs the mind of this terrorist leader. And like the trauma of this event causes his personality to just splinter. And he starts manifesting all of these wildly disparate personalities that each have their own mutant ability.
And that's what's so interesting, that they picked this character to do a show about, and to base it in a mental institution, so we're able to see all of that. And to my knowledge, and I'll watch it later and do the after show here on AfterBuzz TV.
Shameless plug. All right.
But yeah, I'm curious to see if they're even going to use any other mutants, because you don't have to. You got one who can do it all.
Yeah, well, two, we know, one thing we do know about this show is that it's not set in the same universe as the movies. They're developing another, like a family drama, right?
Yes.
That is set in the X-Men movie universe, but this is not.
As well as a new movie, Supernova is the working title, and as I say, they're calling it Teen Spirit, so it's alluding to a 90s throwback there, since they've done the 70s and 80s.
If you notice, though, in that trilogy, like, it spans 30 years and no one ages.
Yeah, and well, for the fact that they always made Havoc older than Cyclops, irritated the heck out of me.
Everyone's secondary mutation is they don't age. There we go. There we go. Explained it.
There you go. Yes. So no, I'm certainly a really interesting character with a lot of potential, but also wondering just. I mean, he got one. He's always been like just a secondary character in a lot of series, and then he actually had X-Men Legacy that gave him his own book for a while that went 24 issues.
Yes.
But I wonder if it's almost. I'll be curious to see what Noah Wiley does with that, or not Noah Wiley. Jesus, I'm talking about
Noah Hawley.
Not the librarian.
Not the librarian. Yes. Because I sometimes wonder, is he like a character like Submariner, who I really love, but is as a character is never able to hold his own title for very long. Right. Is this going to be the same case like this, or really cool character, but over? Can you do more than multiple seasons?
We'll see. I mean, they cast Dan Stevens as Haller, Legion.
And Lex loves Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens is a tremendous actor. Apparently, most people got to know him through Downton Abbey. I have not seen Downton Abbey. I got to know him through a movie called The Guest, which is just awesome. He's also the Beast now in the new Beauty and the Beast, starring Hermione. Yes, but he's a tremendous actor. I don't know how much of a chameleon he is. I feel like if you're playing split personality and you're truly going to sell that these are disparate personalities, you really have to be a chameleon. So I'm excited to see him flex those muscles, especially if they're going to, like, I looked up the list of some of these personalities, and I want to read you guys some of these because it sounds amazing. And it's like, if they're going to go comic book faithful with some of the more out there ones, my goodness, I just let it run for 20 years.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that, about the same time we had Split with James McAvoy.
Do not spoil that for me.
I've actually yet to see it, but I'm just saying, like, Professor X, his son, Legion. deliver.
All right, so Lex, feel free. Give us a little rundown of some of these.
Okay, so the terrorist leader whose mind he absorbed was Jamel Karami. So he's kicking around and he's causing trouble inside Legion's brain. But two of the most formidable opponents that are going toe-to-toe with this terrorist personality called Jack Wayne, described as a swaggering adventurer.
Yes.
And he commands David's telekinetic power, and Cindy, a temperamental, rebellious girl who controls David's pyrokinesis. So she burns stuff. That's fun, but check this out. All right, we got a number, right? Certainly not limited to the following, but includes Bleeding Image, described as a living voodoo doll who amplifies pain from any injury he inflicts on himself, pain that will be felt by his victims. You've got Chronodon, who is a dinosaur, a straight-up dinosaur with a clock on its face. Apparently we don't really know what he does, but apparently maybe can control time based on the clock in his dinosaur head. You've got Clown. Clown is a clown, but Clown can blast an energy beam from his mouth, so that's horrifying. You've got Kerbax the Cracklar, a demonic creature with the ability of flight and electricity generation. Non-Newtonian Annie, a skinny purple woman dressed in pink clothes who has the power to be cloaked in a zero tanus skin. Basically, her skin gets really powerful, and it deflects any attack. And, you know, according to the law of conservation of energy, the energy has to get redirected. She blows it back at her assailant. You've got Protozoan Porter. That's fun. Protozoan Porter. Strange looking. He's like a near octopus looking dude, octopoid, and he's got, he can resemble a leech. He has the ability to teleport by disassembling into multiple little bits and then reassembling. It's almost like a TV signal. Like he disassembles, shoots himself through the air, and then reassembles at a different location. And you've got Wormhole Wodo. Wormhole Wodo can open wormholes across the galaxy. Zero-G Priestley can control gravity. And, of course, the Delusionaut, who's a train engineer, who has a billow smokestack for a head.
See, I mean, if you're going to be in the Marvel Universe and you're going to explore this kind of schizophrenic nature of somebody, then that's... and multiple personalities, why not go really crazy and extreme with everything?
I want to see the guy with the smokestack for a head.
All right. And
Yeah.
I think
they could work
If
that
Legion has to run for 3 generations for us to get there, I want to see the guy with the smokestack for a head.
because it'll be curious to see how much you can do on a TV budget as opposed to a comic book. You've got unlimited budget. You can make anything possible.
I will say, though, if you look at the CW DC shows, it's incredible how they're able to stretch the budgets they have.
Yeah.
They're doing King Shark. They're doing Gorilla City in a couple of weeks. That's
true.
bonkers. So I feel like, fingers crossed, I feel like we're going to get something very exciting.
Well, folks, if you want to read some great stuff, you can do X-Men Legacy. That's available at your local comic shop and trades. Amazon. You can also find it digitally on Comixology as well. You can also jump back into New Mutants 26 through 28 is the first introduction of Legion with some awesome Bill Sienkiewicz art. It's just so cool, and there's depictions of all of some of the various characters that Lex had described as are in there. It's just awesome.
Get on that Protozoan Porter.
Get on him. But folks, yes, that's going to do it for this episode of the Comic Book Exchange. But, you know, the fun doesn't stop here because, you know, we've got so much more to offer. In fact, you can like us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Look at Lex's. Lex, yep, you doing all right?
I need the boost, man.
Okay, he needs that boost. He needs that 5-star boost. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody, for hopping in the chat. If you want to chat with us anything about comic books or just life and related. I mean, you know, Lex Michael loves to just be like a life
tell me what your
coach.
feelings are.
Yes.
Guys, like,
That's right.
I have feelings, too. We'll share feelings with each other. It'll be great. We'll bond. I don't know.
Where would they find you, Lex, if they wanted to do that?
I'm all over social media at the Lex Michael, and that's true. I can prove that.
And I'm Lucretia Lyon, guys. You can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet since there is only one. And I will be on AfterBuzz TV at 11 p.m. tonight to discuss the Legion show and to see if it's good and see if it really stands up to Lex. And also for the Red Flags card game, go to redflags.com. It's from our lovely people at Skybound, and you can create your own personalized Valentine's cards if you go to redflags.com/personal-cards. And there's a promo code, 15% off for Red Flags V-Day. Send your lover a Valentine.
And you see what's some of the examples that you could get in here. So, folks, it could be as kind or as crazy as you want it to be. I'm Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. And until next week, folks, we'll see you back here for another episode of the Comic Book Exchange.
From managing editor Jason Squamata Executive producers Maria Menounos, Phil Svitek, and Kevin Undergaro. We would like to thank you for tuning in to Book Circle Online. For more discussion, go to bookcircleonline.com. And if you have comments, questions, or book title suggestions, write us at info@bookcircleonline.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this is Book Circle Online. BCO, join the circle.